Thank you, Dom, so much for your time to join my podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, can you share a bit about your background and what led you to take on the role of CEO at Mela Water?
Sure. Yeah, I've been entrepreneur my whole life, so to me it was kind of like second nature. I more fell into Mela, but this is my third or fourth company that I've started. The first three were like semi successful in like different ways, but like Mela is the first like I guess success on all fronts, brand wise, financially, market fit, like everything combined. So Mela was my first, big success, I would say.
Yeah. And what inspired the foundation of Mela Water and how has the company evolved since its inception?
Yeah, so Mela was started. I actually didn't found the company from like very inception. I purchased it, I acquired it. So it was started by these two entrepreneurs or a few entrepreneurs. In They were based in Bellingham, Washington, down north of Seattle. And they were kind of world travelers. They were traveling throughout Southeast Asia. Noticed that watermelon water was very prevalent. Watermelons is a very common fruit there. They grow 365 days. They're very cheap compared to watermelons in the United States.
Mhm.
They saw that the market had nothing like it really. So while they were over there, they created Mela. They sourced the farming, the manufacturing, and shipped one container to Seattle, Washington in 2019.
Yeah.
Um, at the time, I had been working for a beef jerky company. I helped start a beef jerky company, and we were based in San Diego. And Mela, throughout the first year of their inception, they had made their way and trickled their way into like some liquor stores in San Diego. So I had kind of crossed paths with the owner at the time. So I was building this beef jerky company. I had crossed paths with the owner of Mela at the time. And it was very like new, like very innocent, like where I was getting to know him and what his product was and stuff like that. And just in a basic conversation, I found like the company super interesting, but I hadn't even tried the product. So he gave me the product to try. I took it home. I tried it. It was unbelievable, blew my mind. And I just kind of kept it in the back of my mind. I was like, this is incredible. Like, I've never had anything like it. Nothing like it exists on the shelf.
Mhm.
I'd never seen anything like it. I just like the origin story. It was very unique, tasty. It could be drinking by mass market. Like, it was a product for everybody. So fast forward, I was an early investor in cryptocurrency pretty early on, and I was aware of it in the 2012 era, but I started investing in it in like 2016, 2017. So I put a little bit of money in crypto, made a lot of money in crypto, and then at the time, I sold right at the right time in 2020, and
Yeah.
so I was kind of looking for like a new venture. So Mela was the first thing that came to my mind. So I had called the previous owner of Mela. Make a long story short, I acquired them in 2021. And then I spent like 6 months doing nothing besides just like focusing on like a rebrand. So I basically, when I bought the company, they didn't really have any assets. So I kind of like acquired the supply chain knowledge and a few customers that they had built up over time. We were probably doing like 20K a month, 25K a month in revenue. And so I did buy a little bit of revenue stream, but I basically spent the first 6 months after I acquired the company like rebranding it. So what is now Mela, and the reason a lot of people say like I'm the founder of Mela is because what people know of Mela as today is like what I created, which is a totally different brand and image and visual concept. So we relaunched in March of 2022 as to what is now in today's world Mela.
I see.
That's
Wow.
kind of the origin story.
That's quite a journey. Oh my gosh. Do you think when you work for a beef jerky company, that helped you to understand like how to run a more like a beverage food company down the road when you
Yeah,
acquire?
yeah. Anything in CPG is kind of like a playbook. So it's kind of like playing on a sports team, and if you have one playbook of how something is done successfully or unsuccessfully, right? Like there was a lot of things that I learned at my first company that I was like, okay, if I was the CEO, if I was the owner, I would be doing differently. So I learned on things what to do and what not to do. And I just got a general sense for the first 2 years of like what CPG was, which is vitally important because then I hit the ground running when I bought Mela. But there's still things, obviously, every single day. I'm 3 years in, basically, that I'm learning of, that I had no knowledge of. But to have that first base of knowledge was like super important. It was definitely a differentiating factor from, somebody who gets involved in a CPG business like without any knowledge
Yeah.
off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is the core mission of Mela Water, and how do you envision your company shaping the future of the bottled water industry?
Essentially, we're not a bottle of water. We are juice, basically. So we just say water because watermelons by nature are 92% water. So we say watermelon water just like coconut water says coconut water.
Mhm.
So coconut water is actually 100% juice. Coconut water is a juice, considered a juice. So we're in the same type of category as coconut water. We don't fit under water. We fit under juice. And so basically, what we're trying to do is create a new category, which is the category of watermelon water.
Yeah,
Coconut water is a $5 to $6 billion market. And that's based on like 40% of the population liking coconut water and liking the flavor profile of coconuts.
yeah,
So we think that watermelon water as a category could be double that. And so we're basically creating a new category. We're not the first ones to do it. There was another company that still exists today that is kind of a competitor, not really. I can get into later, but they're in the category with us as well. They're called WTR, MLN, WTR. They were the first mover in this category. And we kind of fixed some of the things that I think that they might have done differently had they done, restarted from scratch, which is we're shelf stable, meaning we don't have to be in a refrigerator the entire time, so we can be transported cold. And we also produce internationally compared to they produce domestically. Now they produce internationally, but when they were first started, they produced domestically. So there's a couple different variances, but overall, our vision is to create a new category of watermelon water, which is basically boils down to like a hydrating, tasty drink. That's it. We're not trying to be this extremely healthy, known product that's making all these major health claims. And we're also not trying to be something that's not healthy. We're trying to kind of fit in the middle, like an alternative, maybe something that's tasty, that's sweet, that's also better for you if you want something that's sweet and tasty than maybe like a soda, which is mostly like produced sugar and stuff like that. So we're trying to fit in that realm.
Wow, I see, I see. And you're like one of the first who's going to create that category.
Yeah. We're definitely we might be bigger than our competitor. We don't know how big they are, what size they are revenue wise, but we might be bigger than them now. But us and them, we don't really view them as competition because I think winners focus on what you're focused on, and like so I'm happy they have their own niche, they have their own thing, and we're kind of doing our own thing. So we don't really like talk crap about them. In fact, we actually root that they do really well because in order for both of us to be successful, we need our category of watermelon water to rise. So we want to be more on friends terms with them compared to like hatred.
Yeah, yeah, right. So, Mela Water operates, since we're talking about competitors and potential competitors. So when you operate in a highly competitive market, what could distinguish your products from others in the field?
So essentially, our competition, our biggest competition, to be honest, we see as coconut water, because they are a very similar type of industry and a very similar type of product.
Mhm.
But once again, we would love and welcome competition into our category. We don't have a lot. To be honest, we have none that actually have the exact criteria that we have. Like, for example, coconut water, there's like 20 different brands that are all competing with the exact same type of model, which is shelf stable coconut water. The
Yeah.
biggest two is Vita Coco and Zico. We don't really have a direct competitor that's like doing exactly what we're doing. So we're enjoying the fact that we don't have competition for now and as long as we can. And honestly, it's been very successful. It's helped us grow really quickly because when we go to retailers, we're the only people providing what we provide. So it makes us grow faster. But we are welcoming competition. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I mean, like when you don't really have any competitors, you can just focusing on how to grow yourself without thinking about battling for others or like protection for yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We're executing as hard and as fast as we can currently because when competition does come, it will make it more of a challenge. Then you have to win on the marketing side, right? So our luxury is, for perfect example, right? Like Liquid Death is a fantastic example. Like Liquid Death is not a water brand. Like they sell water, but they're a marketing company. They're a marketing machine. Red Bull, Monster, these energy drinks are other great examples. Those are marketing machines. They're not really energy drink companies because there's so much competition that they have to win on the marketing branding side. Like Red Bull has a Formula One race team. They have people that are jumping out of helicopters with a parachute. Like they're doing all these crazy things because they have to win on the branding side and be a marketing machine. Whereas we have the luxury for now to not have to spend that money on doing those crazy things because we don't have to beat anybody out. So that's kind of the nice play we have. We have a great advantage in that world, you know.
Yeah, great example. Great example. I actually just watched the Formula One. So
Right.
yeah, yeah. So, sustainability is a significant concern in the water industry, I guess. And can you discuss Mela Water's environmental initiatives and how they impact your operations?
Yeah, we're looking at definitely exploring more the sustainability aspects. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like so many people want to help the environment or help the world, but it's like, okay, if you are a good person and you want to help the world, the way you do that isn't by you can make more of an impact when you're rich or when you're successful than like doing something by just yourself, right? So initially our focus hasn't been like extremely heavy on what can we do to give back because in order to give back we have to be able to give something, like, you know what I mean, where the bigger we get and the more successful we become, will these philanthropic aspects, the sustainability aspects will become way easier because we'll actually have cash to like make an impact. But initially off the bat, in all generally the biggest way we've been able to like look at sustainability is the fact that we use aluminum cans and not plastic. So most all hydration drinks in that category use plastic. We decided to use an aluminum can instead, and I wouldn't say our competition. WTR, MLN, WTR, are one competitor in our category. They use plastic bottles. The research shows that plastic bottles are just worse for the environment, mostly because of the microplastics that when they do get into the water system, they break down and contaminate water. So a majority, or maybe not a majority, but a percentage of plastic gets into the water system, whereas aluminum, that doesn't happen. So even if aluminum winds up in the ocean, it doesn't kind of contaminate the rest of the water supply. So it's not like aluminum is like so much more sustainably focused than plastic, but in the big picture, it actually really is. So, so far we've stopped about 7 million plastic bottles from entering the environment, and that savings of 7 million plastic bottles is basically just math of how many cans we've sold compared to making the cognizant decision to use cans instead of using plastic.
Yeah, that's amazing. You actually did a lot from your budget and also you're continuously working on to sustain. So that's great.
Mm-hmm. There's
Yeah.
so much more we could do, like from the watermelons, the actual fruit side, the farming side, the transportation side. Like there's a lot of different ways that we will, help the environment. It's just a matter of what can we do to do that, which is we got to make money first. Once we're making money and we're big enough to make an actual impact, then we're going to look at different ways to start implementing.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges Mela Water has faced, and what opportunity do you see on the horizon?
Yeah, our only challenge really in beverage, which is the biggest challenge, which is why beverage is great because it has a high barrier of entry, is money. You need capital to buy your inventory. So if you're doing $1 million a month, let's say in revenue, stereotypically that's going to cost you $500,000 of cash to be able to buy that inventory. And it takes, 2 months to produce that inventory. And then let's say you sell it the day it's produced, then all your customers are on net 30, right? So my point in saying that is, if you take $1, you don't get $2. If you take $1 of capital to build your company in beverage and you put that down on January 1st, you won't get $2 back in revenue until like at the very earliest, like probably March 30th. You get $2 back. So there's a massive lag in like capital constraint. And that's why beverage is so difficult to find major success. And like anybody could go start a beverage company and do it on a small scale, like start locally and like, do a little bit. But when you're talking about mass scale, capital becomes very intensive. You need millions of dollars to operate the machine just for inventory, which is different than tech, right? Because tech, it's like, okay, if you create a tech company, it's software. And the second you start finding success, all you got to do is increase your server size. Like it's very scalable. That's why tech can be $1 billion company overnight, whereas beverage is more of a slow, steady grind because you're constantly raising money and constantly have to bring more money in the business. It's definitely more difficult.
Yeah, and also you have to be patient, and like you will see the result over time as long as you stay consistent and persistent for whatever you're trying to do, and you're continue your mission with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, how have consumer preferences in water changed over the years, and how has Mela Water adapted into these changes?
People are looking at packaging. People are looking at marketing. People are looking at celebrities. To be honest, there are companies that have a lot of success and they're branding towards purely like no celebrities, no marketing, just very good quality product.
Yeah.
But as you can see with like Liquid Death and Prime is a great example. They're not in the water category, but they're a fantastic example of like they've done over $1 billion in sales in their first 2 years, which is like fucking absurd. That's insane. And the reason is because they're a marketing machine with Logan Paul at the helm in KSI. So consumers have changed because Gen Z, mostly Gen Z, and the younger millennials, they drink what the people they love are drinking. Where 20 years ago, that wasn't really the case because there wasn't a lot of influence from the influencer marketing side. So trends are changing based on you don't even have to be a good product if you have great branding and great celebrity backing, which I don't believe in that. I don't think that's a sustainable good way to run a business necessarily. But yeah, that's how it's changing.
Yeah, I do feel like whenever celebrities promoting any product, it will make people feel like they want to buy that more than other products.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
is something on trend now. So you don't think that's gonna be your campaign in the future?
No.
Okay.
We don't have to because, like I said, it goes back to competition. Like we don't have competition. So, Logan Paul wants to beat out Gatorade, Powerade, Body Armor, all these hydration drinks. He's got to be a marketing powerhouse. Luckily, we don't have to have a celebrity. We could if we want to, but we don't. We don't have to because there's not a lot of competition in our category.
Yeah, yeah. Also, that's gonna be another like budget for you to spend on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how do regulations affect your business, and then particularly concerning sustainability and health standards?
Nothing major, to be honest. Nothing I would say like publicly on a podcast. I would say the biggest thing for regulations is tariffs, like import tariffs, right? Like Trump had a tariff, and then Biden released those tariffs. So import export type of things are affect us pretty significantly, which is fine. I'm obviously like pro America, so whoever's at the helm, whatever president thinks should be done, whatever. But that affects us pretty significantly, right? Because our costs go up a lot more when it comes to shipping.
Yeah.
Pandemics, wars, things like that, they affect us pretty significantly, like most businesses, but us in particular because we're shipping product into the United States, right? So if China invades Taiwan or there's some sort of war in Southeast Asia, you know what I mean? Like something like that, it really affects us because of shipping lanes.
Yeah. I guess like it will take way longer time for them to declare all the products in the custom, and like if any politics is involved, and it will prolong the process for sure.
Yeah. hmm hmm
Can you discuss any technological advancement or innovation that Mela Water has integrated into its processes?
Yeah, we haven't integrated anything yet. We're looking at stuff currently. For example, like ways to produce the watermelons that is using a machine rather than a human. Like right now, we use humans to cut the watermelons. So we're looking at machinery that basically cuts cost or whatever it may be. But we're not looking heavily at technology right now, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. So you use all like your employees, they will cut the watermelon for them.
hmm
Oh, so how many employees do you have now?
So as far as like under my realm, under Mela, we base like our business in the United States, we have 18. And then overseas, we employ probably 2 to 300
Mhm.
Vietnamese workers. And that ranges from, and then probably we source watermelons from like 1,000 family farms. So it's pretty significant. Some brands they'll be like, oh, we employ 300 people, and they're counting the people in their manufacturing facility as those employees. I don't necessarily count them under, but we are. I mean, we're our manufacturers basically we're their biggest and only customer. So we're basically employing all those people that work within our manufacturer as well.
I see. I see. And since we're talking about employees, how would you describe your leadership style, and how has it influenced the company culture at Mela Water?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something I've really put a lot of thought to recently. I think without a shadow of a doubt, and it's funny because this is how I've operated since the beginning, and now I've seen a lot of stuff like start to pop up on this mindset is I believe that every single one of my employees should have a piece in our company, like without a doubt. Like my employees are my partners. They're not necessarily they do work for me, or I'm still the boss. I could fire people, I could hire people, I have to hold people accountable. But in the end, it really I don't have to as much when all my employees have a piece of what makes Mela successful, right? So if you're working at a job at McDonald's and you're having a bad day, or you don't feel like working hard and you want to slack, like you're going to slack, or you're not going to work hard because you don't give a shit, in terms of if your franchise does good or bad, because you're just getting a paycheck. But when you have all your employees have a piece in that success when they sell or etc., it changes their mindset significantly to give them ownership and accountability without me not having to babysit a bunch of different employees, because they're only cheating themselves if they're not working hard. They're only cheating themselves and their coworkers if they're not doing a good job. So I think me being at the helm, a big thing that I did right off the bat was just the mentality of I believe everybody within our company and our organization should have a piece in how in the pie. So they all have equity. They're all owner shares, stuff like that.
I love that. It's definitely like make your employees feel like they're part of it, and they will work harder for they own something, especially they feel.
Yes.
So what qualities do you value most when assembling your team, and how do you foster motivation and productivity among your employees?
I think the qualities I love most are problem solvers without needing to help them solve problems, right? And natural action takers off the bat. Like you want to find people who, when you give them the vision and the goal, like, hey, we want to get here, they're figuring out the steps to get there automatically, and they're thinking of and creating and innovating in ways on their own and without you having to do that, because that takes a lot of pressure off of you. So if you can find employees that believe in the vision, believe in the bigger picture, and can help you get there without having to, like I said, I keep using the word babysit. I don't have to do that ever, but sure other founders do. So problem solving and action taking, I think, are the two biggest attributes to make someone successful.
Yeah. And how does Mellow Water address diversity and inclusion within its workplace then?
We don't set certain metrics to be like, oh, we need to hire, X ethnicity or X gender or anything. We hire people based on merit. So if you're the best person in your field, whether you're a boy, a girl, black, white, Asian, non-Asian, like it doesn't matter to me at all. We hire people based on who would fit our culture and style of work best, and that's all we care about. We don't care about anything else. So how the dice have rolled thus far is I think we're about 50-50, men and women. And then, so yeah, so it's just totally dependent, on the job role, the experience, the hunger, the tenacity, the problem solving, right? So we choose solely based on merit. And if we could try to help people out, and, we've had certain people that have joined our team that we've given opportunity to, because even if they haven't been the best, most qualified person, they've expressed the hunger to have the opportunity to be successful. We've hired people for that as well.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really amazing. So, looking back, what are some of the milestones you are most proud of in your career?
Good question. I'd say 10 million in revenue. That was a very good milestone, because even just statistically speaking, like most beverage companies never see it. If they do see it, it takes 7, 5, 8 years. We did it in basically 2 years. Um, so I think the revenue goal was huge. My next goal is we'd like to save about 25 million plastic bottles from entering the environment. So that will be another significant goal. And then leading up to now, 1 million in revenue is great. 10 million, I'm excited for 25 million of revenue, 25 million bottles saved from the environment would be pretty great. So yeah, those are some of my favorite goals.
Yeah. And what are some important lessons do you think you've learned as the CEO of your company?
Hmm. Um, I think one of my lessons is early on I gave equity to a lot of people, which I said is a good thing. But I would put the metrics in there in order to earn that equity. Initially, I never came from a corporate company where they had vesting schedules or metrics in order to unlock that equity. Um, so I would definitely just put stipulations into everything and everyone. You should give everyone equity, give everyone a piece, give everyone a chance, but make sure that there's quantifiable metrics for them to reach in order to get that equity.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Because I didn't do that. And I lost a lot of equity to people who then weren't a right fit. Like they got their equity off the bat without vesting schedules. And then I realized they weren't a good fit. So I either had to let them go, or they weren't a part of the company for that much longer, and they just got too much.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all about lessons you learn and moving forward after you realize that's something you learn, and you will also like adapt that into the future management. So,
Mhm.
what future goals do you have for yourself professionally and for Mela Water?
Yeah, I would like to sell Mela for the minimum 250 million. That's kind of like our desired exit. We're laser focused on getting there. Anything past that point, I don't care. Like we could be worth 1 billion, we could be worth two. I don't know. We're gonna see. Um, but I'm laser focused on getting 250 million evaluation. If there's an exit potential there, we might explore it. Minimum on the minimum side, could be higher too. We could be up to that, getting near that point, and I'm looking at the market going, we have a lot more room to expand. So, that's just kind of what we're laser focused on.
Yeah, and where do you see that the water industry in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's our category is going to grow, 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 because we don't have a lot in our category, so it's definitely going to get bigger. And I'm basically at the helm in order to make it as big as possible.
Yeah, yeah. So what advice would you give to someone looking to start a business in the beverage industry then?
Good question. I wouldn't do it unless you had $1 million. I would not. I would say if you want to start a beverage company and you don't have $1 million in cash, I would take that idea. I would sit on it. I would either go work for somebody or do whatever you got to do to go make your first $1 million outside of beverage. And while you're accumulating that wealth, I would study the market and plan and build your business plan or your idea and slowly get it formulated. But you will not succeed most likely in this business if you want to be very successful. Unless your plan is, like I said, very micro level, start a beverage company in like your local town where you are and slowly grow and grow, grow. But if you want to do $10 million in 2 years, like we did, or you want to see the big boom, you have to start with $1 million, because what's going to happen is if you don't have $1 million to start with, you're going to start having to raise money at a very low valuation. And you're going to lose a majority of your company as you raise capital without good sales numbers. So, for example, if you can't get to if you can't basically retain 50% of your company and still be worth like $20 million, like it's not going to be worth it, because there's founders in the CPG game, and I'm not going to name names, but some of the biggest founders in my industry, they have less than 10% left. Like, yes, they're worth $500 million, but they might have 2% left of the company. So it's like, well, you just did all that. You built a $500 million company, and when you sell, you're only going to make, I don't know, 10 million bucks. So it's like, it's not really worth it. Whereas if they were able to start with $1 million first, they would have been able to raise a lot less money early on, because your dilution comes very early. It doesn't come late. Like if you want to raise 5 million bucks at $100 million valuation, you're only losing 5% of the company. But if you want to raise $5 million and you're only at a $10 million valuation, you're going to lose 50%. So the name of the game is keeping as much equity as you can for as long as you can until your valuation's as high as possible. And in order to do that, the best safe way to do that is make sure you have enough capital while you own 100% to build the business big enough. So I'd say don't start unless you have $1 million, and go figure out how to make $1 million somewhere else, logistics, tech, medical device sales, because in this game, you're not going to make a lot of money. In order to make millions of dollars, you have to be in the position like I am, to be honest. You have to be the owner. You have to be one of the first people within the company, because the highest paid employees in CPG, especially at a startup, if you're crushing it, you're in the low six figures. You're 150 to 200K max salary for like C-level executive, but you can go make 500K a year doing logistics.
Yeah,
So
wow.
that's what I would say.
Yeah. So last but not least question for you. Who are your role models in business, and how have they shaped your leadership at Mela Water?
Um, I'd say I'm starting to change my role models as of recently. Because I'm becoming still familiar with this industry a lot. I really like the heads of Poppy. I like the guy at Liquid Death, Mike. I kind of look at those two as like some really good people. Lance Collins is very inspiring. Lance Collins is like the Elon Musk of beverage. Mike Rampolla is in the same boat. These people are like, Lance Collins has built, I don't know, 10 different CPG companies that have all sold for over $500 million. So guys like that are really intriguing to look at, because in reality, it is, once you learn it, it is very simple. It's lather, rinse, repeat. So Lance Collins has done a very good job of like creating a company, incentivizing his employees, keeping his core team and foundation. They build a company, they sell for 500 million. Then he goes and starts another one with the same exact team. And he just keeps doing that over and over and over, and all these different things. So I really look at that as like very truly inspiring. Whether that's how I run Mela one day and we sell Mela and go start another, or we build a portfolio company, that's TBD. But Lance Collins is definitely up there for sure.
Yeah. Great answer. Thank you so much, Dom, for your time. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Olivia. Nice to meet you.